In biblical times, every 50 years was the Jubilee. It was a time all debts were forgiven and curses broken, I pray. Today is the anniversary. It's the golden anniversary, a jubilee since that faithful day, October 1st, 1961, when a seemingly unassailable record was pierced. It had been held for over 3 decades by the largest of life's sports heroes. Here's the story of the curse. The New York Yankees had been a terrible losing franchise, and the Boston Red Sox were the premier team in all of baseball. Then, on December 26, 1919, that man, Harry Frazee, named not to be pronounced between Portland and Providence, that parsimonious, prevaricating, portentous prognosticator of producing plays, said yes, yes, Nanette, and no, no, Bambino. Broadway play and baseball club owner Harry Frazee sold Babe Ruth to the Yankees for cash, and he told the fans he would use the money to sign new players. He explained that no club could afford to trade enough players to equal the value of Ruth, so he would use the cash to acquire players from different clubs, which he did not. This began an 86-year drought for the city known as the Hub. Now, the legend says the equipment manager placed a curse on the bats that the Red Sox could not win the World Series again. Volumes have been written as to the effects and history of the curse, from Pesky's delayed throw, a botched grounder at first, to home runs by unlikely punch-and-Judy batters like Aaron Boone and Bucky expletive-deleted Dent. Now, sometimes the curse seems downright eerie. The retired numbers of the Red Sox players, plus the universally retired number 42 for Jackie Robinson, now appears on the wall at Fenway Park in numerical order. However, when the numbers first appeared, they were in the order they retired. Williams 9, Cronin 4, Dorr 1, and Yaz 8. That date, 9/4/18, Babe Ruth was in a Chicago hotel getting ready for Game 1 as starting pitcher of the last series Boston would win for 86 years. Their opponent, the equally vexed Chicago Cubbies. Prior to 2004, I thoroughly believed that a Cubs-Sox October Classic was the final sign of the apocalypse. In a Game 7, bottom of the ninth, loaded bases, full count, close pitch, not swung at, raptured umpire would leave the unrepentant in a Dante Satcher-esque hellish limbo of their own creation. Now, the only way to break the curse would be by divine providence and by a pack of overachievers, kind of like the '69 Mets. Now, the Red Sox had the components to break the curse in '86. However, these are some of the things to consider. Davey Johnson, the Mets manager, was on deck when both Sarah Hato and Hank Aaron hit their 715th home run, breaking Babe's record. Davey played in Japan and with the Braves. Bill Buckner was playing left field. A ball made its way over his head into the bullpen. That was Hank Aaron's 715th home run. Bruce Hurst, losing pitcher Game 7, can take the letters in his name, rearrange them, and spell out B. Ruth Curse. Now, here's how the curse is expected. How the curse has affected me. I was born 59 days after Babe Ruth died in 1948. Genetically cursed/blessed with long, thin legs and a short, thick torso. Played right field and wore number 3 as a little leaguer. Conversely, later in life, became a pitcher. My dad met Babe Ruth 3 times, twice in his position as a hotel manager, but most meaningfully as a wounded GI in a military hospital during World War II. Babe came around and visited the troops. My dad's girlfriend before my mother was a woman named Helen, same as Babe's first wife. Helen lived next door to Johnny Igo, Babe Ruth's business manager. Johnny also owned most of the pharmacies in the city of Boston. During Prohibition, alcohol was only legally available by prescription. My dad and Helen attended cocktail parties at Igo's every weekend. During Prohibition, the Great Depression was in full swing, so those stores had not been re-inhabited as flower shops or Pizza Huts. When the 18th Amendment was repealed, my dad went down to City Hall, paid $100, and reopened a place near Fenway called the Bridge Cafe. Prior to 1919, the Bridge was allegedly where Babe Ruth had his last drink before entering the ballpark. On the maternal side, my grandfather was a civil engineer. When a young Yale alumnus, Sam Yorkie, became owner of the Sox, he chose my grandfather, class of 1909, as chief engineer to rebuild after the Bleacher Fire in 1934, along with a contiguous project covering of the wooden green monster with tin and concrete, since converted to plastic. One family legend says Gramps showed up with my Aunt Sue to watch a game from the company box, only to find it occupied. Not shy was Gramps. He evicted the squatter, whose name happened to be Joe Cronin. My mother's only serious boyfriend before my father was the actor Sterling Hayden. Most people remember him as crooked police captain McCluskey that gets whacked by Michael Corleone as he partakes in the best veal in the city, The Godfather, 1972. In Hayden's autobiography, Wanderer, 1963, he talks about a close call on his boat, stranded out at sea with his girlfriend Sarah. That was my mom. Hayden starred in Virginia, 1941, with Fred MacMurray. Fred MacMurray starred in My Three Sons with William Frawley. William Frawley played Jack Dunn in The Babe Ruth story, starring William Bendix. I feel obligated to pursue this rabbit trail a little bit further. Hayden appeared with Jane Fonda in 9 to 5. Jane Fonda starred with Donald Sutherland in Clute, 1971. Donald Sutherland was in Animal House, the classic, 1978, where we all were introduced to a young actor named Kevin Bacon. One day in 1958, a crowd gathered in the Center Avenue schoolyard to witness the greatest transaction since Lewis and Clark. I brought to school 2 shoeboxes full of cards and $3 in cash, the exchange with another student for what he extracted from his shirt pocket. Allegedly a 1927 Babe Ruth card. The card was in pristine condition and unfamiliar size and shape. This is bogus, I declared. Cards were scaled, flipped, clipped to the back of your bike to make a cool noise, but never did they look new 30 years later. He said my father kept it in the family Bible, and it seems somewhat plausible, and maybe I can win some of those cards back. Well, we haggled, and here's where my memory gets sketchy. I just remember being petrified of the other kid's father. He was huge, at least 6'5" and strong. He worked at a business my parents patronized, and I was sure Eddie's father had no clue about this transaction. Now where is it? Did my mother give it away with all my sports stuff to the kid down the street while I was away at college? Did my fear cause me to stash the card and repress memory of its location? My daughter resides in that family home, so perhaps hidden under a floorboard or a cranny in the attic. If moth and rust have not destroyed, it's worth several grand. Of course, selling the card would perpetuate the curse. So the proceeds would have to be donated to St. Mary's Orphanage in Baltimore, Maryland, where Babe Ruth was raised. 1961 saw the most vicious attack on Ruth's record. Both Mickey Mantle and Roger Maris were well ahead of Ruth's pace most of the season. But assaults had died before, like fly balls to center field in the old stadium. Ruth had a huge September, so you had to be well ahead of the pace even to come close. Mantle fell off due to injury, but Maris hung tough. He had 59 in the first 154 games, what had been the season, but due to expansion, 8 more games had been added. Now Maris hit 1 more in the next 7 games. That left him tied with Ruth 1 game to play. A restaurateur from San Diego named Sam Gordon had offered $5,000 for the ball just for the opportunity to present it to Maris. Let me put that in perspective. A house in Long Island was about $20,000 at the time. Top of the line Ford or Chevy, less than $2,500. And you could drive off with a loaded Caddy or Lincoln with Sam Gordon's prize. I'm sure 10 million people right now will tell you they were there when the "Don't Eat the Brown Acid" announcement was made from the stage at Woodstock. But in fact, there was no more people there than there were at the Glenn Beck rally. I'm also sure that 100,000 people will claim to have been in Yankee Stadium 50 years ago today. But if you look at the AP photo, excepting right field bleachers, it was relatively sparse. Now, before he hit his momentous shot, Maris hit a slow roller, hugging the wall on the first base side. I stood up, reached over the rail, and as the ball hit my hand, my sister grabbed the back of my pants and caused me to lose the ball. Still in disbelief of the dastardly deed my sister had perpetrated on me, then came the shot heard round the world. It was an event that was never spoken of. Then, one Thanksgiving, decades later, in an orgy of repentance for things we had done to each other as kids, we had a really good laugh. I first told this story 20 years ago after reading Dan Shaughnessy's Curse of the Bambino to my wonderful late parents. They haven't filled in the gaps of the narrative. I was a saloon owner with newfound sobriety, so the tale was somewhat suspect to most. November 2004, Validation and Vindication. A photo published centerfold, Great Moments in New York Sports, Volume 1 of the New York Post. There we are, my sister and I, captured in eternity, to the right of first base coach Wally Amos. I also found my grandfather, pictured directly over Roger Maris's bat, home plate view. Right next to him, his buddy from Yale, class of '09, World's Fair builder, city planner Robert Moses. Now, we knew they were at the game, but we didn't know where they were sitting until we saw this AP photo. Well, that's my story. I'm sticking to it. My name's Charlie, live from Fenway Park, signing out.
19-year-old fan Sal Durante caught the historic Horside on the fly. The crowd went wild as Maris took a bow for his amazing accomplishment.
Hangs him a low breaking ball.
Hit high in the air to left field. Going to the corner, Yastrzemski. It's over the wall. It's a home run for Bucky Dent. Yankees get the lead 3-2.